All right, so today I want to talk about a fairly expensive business lesson that I think every business owner either can experience, will experience, and probably should avoid. So, and it has a lot to do with having the wrong people on your team, the morale of your team, and how that can cost you. So as a new business owner, I guess relatively just now hitting 3 years in the shop, a couple days ago, about a week ago now, I've learned a lot in this, last 3 years. And I've learned somewhat the same lessons just being a barber in other people's shops, but it affecting you financially. You'll obviously learn a lot more when the lesson is more direct, right? So having the wrong barbers on your team can and will cost you money. So I got his idea from a client that I used to cut, and he does a lot of things, and he pretty much spoke about it. And I saw a post that he posted yesterday about essentially the same thing, and it really made me think. I'm like, yeah, that's literally a lesson that I learned, and it's, I wouldn't say a painful one, because in the barber industry, you're not making a crazy amount of money in booth rent from every station. However, it's more of an annoyance that when the time comes for the people that you knew were the wrong people for your team, and they finally actually detach themselves from your team, the weight that's lifted within the environment because of how much effect they have on your environment, right? So, and I've had a number of barbers already in this short time, and I try to limit it as much as possible, but I've definitely still had a number of barbers that have come and gone, unfortunately, for the morale of the team under their own will. And in hindsight, I should have never even had these people on my team because of their views on how to actually build themselves and their work ethic, right? So the biggest annoyance that I've come to have as a barber in the barber industry, I mean, really started even before I opened my own shop, was dealing with the barbers that expect amazing outcomes or expect to amass large amounts of clientele without doing any of the work. Like, I recall working at another shop, and just all the barbers just complaining about the owner not putting out some flyers, right? Because there was a box of flyers in the back of the shop, and it was a couple thousand flyers that were boxed up in the back of the shop that were supposed to go out through the postal service and just be put in mailboxes and everything, right? So in order for that to happen, depending on the city, I want to say they charge you about 5 cents per flyer. So this would have obviously ended up costing this dude a couple $100s. And likely wouldn't have really done anything, because anybody who knows about, it's called junk mail for a reason. Everybody pretty much throws it in the trash. They don't really even give it a second look, right? So, but I recall all these barbers being so disgruntled about the fact that he didn't want to pay for those flyers to go out through the postal service. And I even spoke to him personally, and I'm like, bro, don't waste your money, nor your time, nor your energy paying for that when these barbers won't even post on their own Instagrams, right? So they'll yap in your ear, and they'll get on your nerve, and they'll drain you of energy but they won't even do their own work that they're expecting you to do. They expect you to do all this work so that they can benefit, but still pay you the same amount in booth rent at the end of the week. So you should put out, a couple $1,000s, a couple $100s here and there. They should have to do absolutely nothing but reap essentially all the benefits. And I never understood how a person could think like that. If you understand anything in regards to business, and as a barber, you are a business. So for you to expect another person to invest in your upcoming is obscene. The shop owner has already put out a substantial amount of money to build the barbershop, to give you the platform to do whatever it is you need to do. As long as it's a good shop, it's a clean shop, and it's welcoming to people, they've already given you a space to do whatever it is you need to do to make as much money as you want to make, right? So I just never understood how these barbers could expect so much of someone when they don't do very much themselves. And just seeing that, I always wanted to avoid those kinds of situations, right? So I don't even have all my stations filled in my shop for that reason, because those kind of barbers are very hard to find, right? So all I run into is barbers that expect everything but give almost nothing. I've had a barber that recently left my shop, and I've watched him. There was one day, and more than one day, but there was one day I watched him come to work, and he sat in the chair almost the entire time he was at work, other than eating some food and going to the restroom. He was in his chair the entire time. He didn't have any appointments that day. No walk-ins came in that day. But at no point did he go outside, grab some business cards, and go and try and work the plaza. Myself, as a young barber, I almost never sat in the shop unless it was raining outside or something. And even then, I would still sit under the covering right in front of the shop. In case somebody just walked by the window, I would want to be the one to engage them first. To me, I couldn't process that. But then the same barber leaves the shop, blaming the shop that they aren't making enough money, not seeing the simple fact that they have zero work ethic. This is an industry where you are 100% responsible for how much money you make. Your work ethic will directly reflect your income. Directly. Your availability, your professionalism, and your accessibility will all dictate exactly how much money you can make. And of course, obviously, your haircut prices. So to see that kind of person with zero work ethic, that kind of behavior rubs off on other barbers. And I've had same thing with older barbers that have done the same thing. So I thought it was an age thing. It could be a maturity thing. No, it's a lack of work ethic, a lack of drive, and also a lack of understanding, a grave lack of understanding. And a lot of victimhood of, I shouldn't have to work this hard because it all falls on the shop owner. If you work in a commission barbershop, absolutely, because your income is directly, the shop owner's income is directly reflected on your income. That's a percentage. However, in a booth rental shop, the benefits of the shop owner throwing out crazy amounts of money in advertising aren't as beneficial, because the same amount is due no matter how much money each barber in the shop makes. Let's say you have a 10-chair barbershop, right? That 10-chair barbershop, each one of those barbers is generating $100K, right? That's a 10-chair shop, $100,000 in each station. If you still pay $250 a week, That's about $10,000 a year. That shop owner's only making, if he's cutting in one of those stations, I would imagine he is, the profit's only about $90,000 from those other 9 stations that are being rented at about $10K a year, right? If it's a commission barbershop, and the same thing, those other 9 stations are still generating that $100,000. But if you're giving up, if it's a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split, those are pretty typical in the industry, mostly 60-40, giving up $40,000 per station, just for extra income. So there's a lot more incentive for that shop owner to make sure that each one of those barbers get to $100,000 a year, right? Like that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference in income, and obviously way more motivation as to why you should, as a commission barbershop owner, put way more money behind your barbers, right? You should, and that just, I think that's pretty common sense. But a lot of, I guess, newer barbers or younger barbers, or I don't know, just lack of knowledge having or seeking barbers, simply don't understand like those simple facts. And it's a lot of victimhood and a lot of not wanting to self-reflect and self-blame. Like, it's hard for them to actually tell themselves, like, you know what, I could do more, I should be doing more, and if I did more, I would make more money. If I was here as often as I could be and as often as I should be, I would make more money. If I did all the things I knew I was supposed to do, I would definitely make more money. I didn't build my barbershop to be a high traffic walk-in barbershop. The shit gives me anxiety, honestly. I don't like to see a bunch of people in my waiting area, because a lot of barbers struggle with that. They don't know how to operate and function around it. Like, they will literally freeze up, not know how to engage people. Some people are going to get skipped. That's going to end up, resorting in 1-star reviews, or people getting frustrated, and just all kind of just bullshit comes from that. And I don't want to deal with it. I built my barbershop based on how I operate, and I like to operate on mostly an appointment basis. If I have the time, I can squeeze a walk-in in, right? So my whole goal was to bring in barbers that want to be appointment-based barbers, but also here to accept any and every single walk-in that will come into the shop, right? So someone is bound to have some kind of availability. And if we don't, it's not necessarily a bad thing. That just forces the new people to adapt to our system and want to book an appointment, because they're like, obviously that tells them if everybody's booked and don't have time for you, then obviously we're doing something right, right? However, again, the new barbers tend to think that as soon as they get into the industry, they should be making a crazy amount of money without doing any of the work, without having any of the skill, without building any of the clientele. They think that because they jumped into a nice shop, that they should be essentially making as much as the shop owner, damn near. And I've seen it. I've had these conversations, and I'm not just talking out of my ass. I've had genuine conversations with a lot of barbers that have absolutely shocked me. And that shit will affect people. Just having people who mistreat customers on your team, that affects people. Because if people can't be a people person and understand when not to speak on certain topics, when you have certain people in your chair and making your clients uncomfortable, right? So, or just making certain jokes even about you that you don't want made in that moment, and it just throws off the whole dynamic of the shop. Lack of work ethic, lack of drive, those barbers complaining to other barbers that may not be in a good mental space and may be struggling financially, or can see some sort of fucking relevance to your complaint, that's going to breed another barber that's now a complainer instead of a situation resolution driven barber. Like, if I've never been the barber to complain about anything. I've never been late to pay booth rent. I think the only thing I've ever done really is force the shop owner to try and raise the shop prices. Literally, I think the second barbershop I ever worked at, I begged the shop owner to increase the price by $2, I think. Might have been $1, but I'm pretty sure it was $2. And I begged him, literally, because I was doing about, let's say, 100 haircuts a month. That $2 increase would have been, a $200 increase over the course of a month for me. The customer would barely feel $2. So to me, that was justified. And that did nothing to affect the shop owner himself as far as just increasing the price by $2. So I felt that was a very relevant thing. I've never asked for a discount on shop rent. All I've ever tried to do is make more money. And through my own work, I've never tried to dig in anyone's pocket and ask for anything for free. I've never tried to get any hookups through anybody and try and benefit off someone else without doing any of my own work, because I know what it takes to actually get to where you want to go and the amount of work that it takes to make shit happen, that I don't want to burden anybody with also having to carry me through some shit. But I know that I'm a hard thing to find, right? So I can't expect everyone to operate like me. And I don't expect everyone to operate like me, because I work 7 fucking days a week, minimum 10 hours a day. I think my shortest day is Sundays, and I still work, I think, an 8-hour day. So I don't expect my work ethic to be duplicated, but I do expect the basics. I expect barbers to want to be their own success and not blame anyone else, and have everyone else in the shop in consideration when they do any and everything. How you present yourself on social media, how you greet clients when you come into the shop, how you carry yourself when you're in the shop, your dress code, your professionalism, your mannerisms, everything, your cleanliness. Because there's barbers that'll cut hair and literally just leave the shop and not sweep at all, not sweep for anyone. There's barbers that'll sweep their own station and not sweep for anyone else, and then, go on about their day. All of that affects the flow of the shop, because obviously that's going to upset someone. So keeping those people on your team is going to do nothing but make every other barber disgruntled. So now they either have to come to you for the issue to be fixed, and now that creates issue between you and that barber if you don't fix the issue. And now you have to bring that issue to the problematic barber, who's probably just going to create more problems, right? So I've even had barbers get me 1-star review. I've had a barber literally cost me my personal Google account, right? So I've had a shop Google account, and I had my own Google account, which both still drove traffic to the barbershop because I'm usually pretty busy. So both of them drive traffic to the shop, but I'm pretty much double dipping, which benefited everyone, right? So this barber did something that a customer didn't ask for, right? And when the customer explained to him that he didn't ask for that part of the service, the barber, instead of apologizing and just remaining humble, decided to damn near be hostile, right? And handled the situation very poorly. And then after this gentleman left, He wrote a 1-star review on my account, not the shop account, because obviously he thought the two were the same. So I had to delete this account because I didn't want this 1-star. I tried to dispute, obviously, the 1-star review and make it go away and whatnot, but obviously Google, it's terrible about doing that. They don't take down 1-star reviews. So that didn't happen. And then the same barber, like, essentially made it a joking matter that he got me the 1-star review. Didn't change his work ethic. It didn't change how he treated future customers, because this wasn't the first time that had happened. It almost made no effect on how he operated because it didn't directly affect him, right? It affected everybody. It essentially affected him in the grand scheme of shit, but it didn't affect him immediately and directly, right? But it affected me because obviously that affects the flow of the shop. That affects obviously my Google account, which I lost and couldn't recreate, and affected all the 5-star reviews that I had on that account. So I didn't want the account to be tarnished because all of the 5-star reviews that I had and that 1 star obviously affected my rating, and I just didn't like it. So yeah, the account was gone. Google wouldn't give me the account back. So yeah, that was a pretty big deal. But that barber ended up leaving for a reason I really still don't understand. But essentially saying that he didn't make enough money when he was his own problem. He had done a multitude of different haircuts on different clients that were subpar. Instead of focusing on building craft, he would still complain about not making enough money, but doing nothing to ensure that he could maintain clientele and hold on to them for dear life. And that affected a lot of the other barbers. And that will always be a thing. Like, keeping the wrong people on your team will cost you. So even like every time a barber leaves your shop, that's going to cost the shop a large amount of the clients that barber used to cut, whether the barber was good or not. If people were comfortable enough to repetitively go to that barber for a haircut, then they thought he was okay enough to continue to cut their hair. So if that barber goes to another local barbershop near your barbershop, or whatever the business is, whatever it is, especially if you're in this type of a business that people can take their clients and customers with them, right? So if that barber can go to another shop near your shop, they've taken, we'll even say 50% of the people that they cut. If they're an okay barber, if they're obviously really good at cutting hair, but they just have a shitty personality and shitty customer service, then they're probably going to keep a larger percentage of their customer base, as long as, you know, the customers are okay with them and don't really trust anyone else to cut their hair. But I'd say the other 10% will just go to a different barbershop. Will be a mixture of going to a different barbershop and the ones that wanted to stop going to that barber but didn't want the uncomfortable experience of going to another barber in the shop while that barber was still there. Because you definitely have the barbers that will make a big deal out of that. And I've worked with those barbers that have definitely made a spectacle of clients going to a different barber. I've worked with a barber that called a client a piece of shit in the barbershop, in a full barbershop, while that client was getting a haircut with a different barber. Even though that client has essentially gotten a haircut with almost every single barber in the shop at some point, and brought his kids in regularly to get haircuts with almost every single barber in the shop. Whether the barber was new or not, he gave them a chance. And that barber still decided, for whatever reason, to call that client a piece of shit because he got a haircut. with another barber. And the shop owner did not fire that barber. That barber, I believe, no, I don't think he still works at that barbershop. But he worked at that barbershop for a very long time, even after that situation and situations like it. And yeah, I was not very happy about that. That's not a person that should stay on a team. That's part of those people that should not be on a team in a barbershop that will mistreat customers, especially loyal customers, that will give any barber in your shop a chance and put money in any barber's pocket that is in your shop. Like, as a shop owner, you should take pride, especially in customers like that aren't very picky and even understand the struggles of being a new barber. And it's like, hey, I know the haircut probably not gonna be perfect, but do the best you can and, just give my son a haircut, or even give me a haircut. The dude would literally go to every single barber in the shop, and he likes getting a really nice haircut. Dude, he's a very, high income dude, owns a couple businesses, and still was okay with going to brand new barbers, or at least sending his sons to brand new barbers to get haircuts, and was still mistreated, and no justice per se was given to him about his mistreatment, which will never sit right with me, right? So I'd say this is definitely a pain point that I definitely want to do away with permanently, and I will not tolerate moving forward. I can absolutely promise that, because the money isn't worth it. Like, literally dealing with the stress of a barber that has no work ethic, no morals, is okay with mistreating people, doesn't care about your shop for real. Because any barber that will mistreat people in your shop and does not care about the reputation of your shop does not care about you, does not care about your income, does not care about your well-being, does not care about the health of your family and well-being of your family, because that directly affects your income and the future of your income and the future of your business and the reputation of your business. And all of this is income related, right? So yeah, I can definitely make myself the promise, and the rest of my barbers the promise, that those type of barbers will no longer be tolerated around me. I will never work with them. I will never collaborate with them. I will never want to do any sort of business with them, nor will they do any business with me. I will not accept those types of relationships, like, ever again moving forward. So, and obviously I have to get to know you in order to understand the type of barber that is. But once I get an inkling of that type of work ethic, it'll be dealt with immediately. I will no longer tolerate it, because it'll cost me more mentally, and it'll cost the barbers that I work with that I appreciate more mentally, right? And I'm the barber that wants to grow other barbers. I'm the barber that loves the barber industry. Like, I love this shit, like, through and through. I love every bit of it. I love everything I've learned from it. I've learned everything it's taught me. I've learned a lot, and I love every bit of it, the ups and the downs. I love that I've got to meet these really shitty barbers, and they get to show me their personality, and I get to learn how it can affect me mentally, financially, and I wouldn't say morally, because I won't let anyone compromise my morals, but it lets me see other people's views on certain situations, and that obviously teaches me something, who to deal with, who not to deal with, and why not to deal with them or teach them, or it'll be a lot learning opportunity for either one of us, right? And I can appreciate that, because I want to learn something, no matter what it is. I can learn something from essentially everyone, either what to be or what not to be, what to do, what not to do. There's a learning situation in everything, right? So that's what I can take from that. And I want to grow as many barbers as I can, right? Because I could have very easily, instead of opening my barbershop, I could have gone and just jumped into a salon suite, or done something small, or found a nice barbershop to rent a station in until I was I don't know, in whatever perfect scenario, I probably could have cooked up in my brain to finally open my own shop, if ever, right? So that's it. Just take it serious about who you bring on your team, instead of, you know, feeding the gangrene and losing the whole hand. Just cut off the fucking finger and keep it moving. Because some barbers are literally parasites and will absolutely destroy and fuck up the morale of your entire team because of who they are, their views and their values. And they don't have to be terrible people. I wouldn't say that they're horrible people. Their views on how the industry should operate and how it's supposed to benefit them and who's supposed to do what to benefit them are just skewed, right? They're just different than what mine are, right? And if our views don't align, and they don't have to align perfectly, we don't have to be the same people, but the understanding should be there, at least on how to feed yourself and your family. Because I'm not responsible for feeding grown men or women, other than my own family, obviously. But to push the burden of your success onto someone else is blasphemous to me. It's absolutely insane. And I absolutely will never understand it. I don't think there's anything a barber could say to me or try and convince me of how your success is on someone else. Makes no sense at all. And I really hope, I know the barbers that are the problem will almost never understand that they are the problem, and will almost never see a different side of it, because it's hard for people to self-reflect, right? This video is essentially for the people who are trying to give those barbers as many chances as possible for whatever reason, for financial reasons, because they don't want that barber to leave and have to, you know, lose out on that money for that station and the booth rent. But I can guarantee you it's costing you more than the money. Guaranteed. And eventually that station will be filled by a quality barber. As long as you set the tone and set the standard throughout the shop, the barbers you want will come because the environment is what you want and it's what they want. So as long as the environment is suiting for the right barbers, they'll come. That's it. And you just got to focus on feeding the right barbers, making sure the right barbers have everything that they need in their environment, at least the environment, so that they can thrive and not have to worry about coming to work and dealing with someone who's going to stress them out. And so for me, for whatever reason, my barbers don't like to partake in it. But the concept for me in the beginning of my opening my barbershop was for barbers to essentially have a vote. So when a barber would get hired, they'd be on a trial period time basis, right? This would be about 7 days to like 14 days of a trial run. And at the end of that time period, I would have the barbers in my shop vote on whether or not they wanted that barber to stay. The downside to it is, if you don't want that barber to stay, then a conversation needs to be had amongst the barber that said no, the barber that's getting the no, and myself, and we would have a conversation as to whatever transpired as to why you gave that barber a no, and if that issue can be addressed and corrected moving forward, then we can move forward as a team. But if everyone says no, then that barber's off the team, because obviously that's going to create some sort of friction in the shop, because obviously nobody likes this guy or whatever is going on. Then if everybody thinks this barber needs to leave, then that barber needs to leave. So having regular meetings, or at least talking to your barbers one-on-one at some point and seeing their views on the barbers that are creating some sort of friction in your shop needs to happen. And you need to get rid of the problem sooner than later. And let's stop letting them leave under their own power. Fire them. Get them up out of there. Pack up all their stuff. If they owe you booth rent, pack up all their stuff until they pay you your booth rent and get them gone.